Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded or did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
Sitting across the console for me today, Corey Lee Barker, also known as Christmas Corey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
When I start looking at your bio, at your resume, it's easier to say who you haven't written for or who you haven't worked with than it is to say. But let's just go down the list. You're currently the creative director of MC1 Nashville Music Publishing. You have over 700 cuts in country, Christian, pop, rock, reggae, polka, comedy, TV, and film. Let me see. You've written 10 number one hits in the Christian country genre. You've written songs for Vince Gill, Neal McCoy, Home Free, Daryle Singletary, Cledus T. Judd, Rebecca Lynn Howard, T.G. Sheppard, Johnny Lee, Bill Anderson, Jason Jones, Cash Creek, T. Graham Brown. Oh, yeah, and I missed one. William Shatner.
Oh, yeah.
His name comes up on our show more than once. You've also done TV placements for HALLMARK Channel, Smallville, The Messengers, Entertainment Tonight, Birth of a Legend, Animal Planet, HBO, and Netflix, just to name a few. Glad you're here. Thanks.
Well, thank you. And if that sounds somewhat impressive, you should see the list of the things that did not happen.
That did not happen, yeah.
Much, much greater, I promise you.
Welcome to the industry. You're in music publishing, songwriting, and I kind of want to talk about the anatomy of creating a song and writing a song and that whole world. But how did you get started in all this?
I think, like most people, you just become a fan of music, and then you think, well, I love that song. Why can't I write something like that? So then you try, and you fail miserably. And then you try harder, and then you work with better people, and eventually you start getting a knack for it, and you figure out the things that work and don't work, and try to maximize your chances of success. It's no short deal. It's a long run for sure.
Did you ever have the intention to be a songwriter? Is that something that was just kind of innate in you? Or did you just find that you liked to do it and kind of got lucky in the process? Because let's face it, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of songwriters, aspiring songwriters in this town. How did you get to the rise there?
I have a 3-level rule, and number 1 is persistence, and number 2 is persistence, and number 3 is a whole lot more persistence.
Yeah.
And so I figure if I do it so much, eventually, if I write 10,000 songs, 3 of them have to be good. And so it's a numbers game for me. It's just it's to keep swinging and never stop.
And with your company, MC1, I see you on Facebook almost every day. It seems like including weekends. You're always writing or co-writing or working with someone who's writing. Is that just kind of the norm for you?
For me, when you first move to town, you think you write songs by yourself, or you find somebody else who likes to write songs and you write songs with them. Then as the years go by, you figure out that it's almost impossible to get cuts if you're not in the room with the actual artist. And so for me, at 10 o'clock and at 1:15 every day, I have a different artist or group of people in the room with me trying to create for their album. And if they can't afford to do the demo or they don't want to cut it, we have a great voice on that thing this we can pitch it for somebody else. So for me, there's no second best way to get a cut than to be in the trenches with the artist. And that's what I try to do, believe in them, whether they sell 2 albums or 2 million.
Should that be the norm for the aspiring songwriter? When you talk about persistence, you have to get your foot in the door somewhere.
Sure.
Because once again, Music Row, what it used to be, and I think to a certain extent in an abstract manner, you still have to carry guitar in hand. You have to go knock on doors. You have to have either pitch CDs or some kind of a demo reel. Is that what still takes place in this business?
As far as catching it's fun, like trying to get a deal to where you can write songs for a living or get anything done, period.
Just trying to get your foot in the door.
I will tell you, even with a track record, it is really close to impossible to get a deal where you can write songs for a living. I remember, for instance, in 2015, at that point I had 500 cuts, give or take. I pitched 3,000 times that year, and I got 30 cuts. If I just say I got 30 cuts this year, you say that's a good year. But if you look at the numbers, I'm a 99% failure.
You pitched 3,000 cuts that year.
I pitched 3,000 times to try to get a cut.
3,000 times to get a cut.
Whether it be to artists or TV or film or whatever. And only 30 of the things actually went through, even though more will say, oh, yeah, we're going to cut this, and then they don't. So
it's about a 1% success rate, yeah.
At least it was then. It's gotten higher for me now as the different cuts come in, and it's kind of a snowball thing. Once you get a lot of good things happen, it's a little bit easier, but it's never totally easy.
And you start to build a little bit of a reputation, and people know what you can do and what you've done. Your track record starts to speak for itself.
And then at that point, if you treated the producers right or the managers right, and you were okay with sending them your best stuff when they were producing a nobody, so to speak. I don't think anybody's a nobody, but using that terminology, they remember that.
Somebody's an up-and-coming artist.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they remember the fact that you took the time to give them great music when you didn't have to do that. And then maybe next time they're producing somebody, they call you. And that saves you a lot of time of wondering who's cutting, who needs a song, and that kind of thing. So that's helped out, just treating people right.
Well, don't you think in all instances, you should present your A game no matter what?
I think so, but I will tell you that it is very common in this town for the big writers to save until they run into Blake Shelton or until they can get it to such and such. To me, I don't have that same policy. If you're an artist and you want a song and I've written something, by all means, you can have it. Unless somebody tells me I can't. Somebody higher than me says that's not an option.
The artists that, and we're talking about the named artists, let's say a Blake Shelton or Tim McGraw, whoever it is, are they still looking for album cuts? Are they still looking for something to fill a complete project, that 10, 11, 12 song? Or are they just looking for hit after hit after hit? Now, the common sense dictates they would be looking for that hit after hit after hit. But old school, we weren't always doing that. We would look for 2 or 3 songs that maybe were going to be singles, and then everything else was just album filler. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but that's just what it was. Is that model no longer exist?
In certain circumstances, it does, but a lot of times those spots are going to be filled by everybody within their current circle. They usually come up with some people in the business. You had your set friends that you wrote with or played with, or your manager that's always been there, and they're going to have their set of friends, and most of it is all in this tight circle, and it's really hard to squeeze in if you didn't know them beforehand. And that goes back to my philosophy of writing with unknown writers any chance that you can, because you never know when that unknown writer will now become known writer, and they remember that you helped them before they were at the position where you should have.
And that's the other thing, that unknown writer, it's only going to take that one song. It's only going to take that one single that becomes a hit, and they have now launched themselves into I don't want to say stratosphere, but they've definitely launched themselves. Getting that song, and I want to talk about the anatomy of the song and how a song should be put together, and we'll do that after the break. But do you know almost instantly if you have that hit as you're working on it? Do you go, oh, I'm onto something here? Or how long do you woodshed a song to kind of get where it's at?
Well, you think sometimes, but oftentimes you can write the most beautiful song in the world, and it'll melt every heart that hears it, and it does nothing. And then you have a silly little song with 2 or 3 chords that's just a sing-along, and that becomes, I'll tell you a great example is I didn't even get to demo a song that made the William Shatner project, and it took literally 20 years. It just, sometimes I thought it was the title. I thought Friends Don't Let Friends Drink Alone was a funny title, and somebody would probably cut it one day. But it took 20 years to find that home.
And that was William Shatner.
And that was William Shatner and his duet project with Jeff Cook from Alabama. That was a lot of fun for me to work on that project and get several songs on there.
But it only took 20 years.
Only took 20, overnight success.
Yeah.
And there's other songs you absolutely know, without a doubt, that's going to be a hit, and nobody ever records it.
Is it the process of getting that song into the right hands? I mean, as you said, it's a hit. It's just the right person has to hear it. Is it just, are there so many walls, so many doors that have to be opened? Or what is that firewall system that, is it pretty entrenched, even for someone like you who's written that many songs?
It's still difficult for me. If I didn't grow up in that circle with that person before they hit, if the songs were equally as good, if you have two great songs, they're going to want to use the song that benefits their cousin or their best friend who has always stuck by them and been a hard worker, and they just like that person a lot. That's going to win before a stranger will, anytime. And I understand that.
Yeah. We're going to take a break, get a word in for one of our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to have some more discussion with Corey Lee Barker, who is the current creative director of MC1 Nashville Music Publishing. We're going to do a little anatomy on a song, a little dissection,
right.
Figure out how to get started there.
This is Rick Caballo with Dead Horse Branding. You're tuned into another edition of Business Side of Music. It's like a good book that you just can't put down.
You're listening to the Business Side of Music.
Hi, this is Tom Sabella, the creator, founder, and co-producer of the Business Side of Music podcast. It's loyal listeners such as yourself that make our podcast successful. Take the time to sign up for our weekly newsletter. Not only does it contain information on upcoming podcast episodes, but also informative tidbits on the music industry and even bonus items that we give away. All you have to do is sign up at businesssideofmusic.com and we will send you Larry Butler's new singer-songwriter rulebook. That's it. All you have to do is go to businesssideofmusic.com, sign up, and we will send you Larry Butler's new book. Thanks to all our loyal listeners. We love you.
Hey, it's Chris SD from Sync Songwriter. Imagine what it would be like getting your music into the latest TV shows, movies, or ads. Your songs would not only get exposure in front of millions of viewers, you'd get paid to do it and gain a reputation as the songwriter that you are. I've been showing songwriters, composers, and artists how to get their music into TV and film for over 15 years. Collectively, they have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars from licensing their music. Their music has been on networks such as HBO, Bravo, ABC, NBC, Netflix, and more. In films or trailers such as Predator, Annihilation, Christmas Chronicles, Professor Mac, and many others. So many songwriters upload their music to websites hoping to get discovered. Unfortunately, this almost never happens with the millions of songs out there competing for attention. I show you how to get your music heard by the people who can actually make it happen for you. When you start getting your music licensed, you automatically develop a reputation in the industry. This lets you get syncs over and over again. If you'd like to discover how to connect with the right people in music licensing, just click the Sync Songwriter logo on the Business Side of Music webpage, and I'll see you there.
You're listening to the Business Side of Music.
Back in the studio, sitting across the console from me, Corey Lee Barker, also known as Christmas Corey. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit because I see your posts on Facebook, and it's a little abstract for some people.
A lot of people.
Well, here it is. It's July. It's 100 degrees outside, and you have Christmas lights and a Christmas tree in the studio, and you're penning those Christmas songs. But that's the time of the year you got to do it, right?
Honestly, the tree never leaves my office for 365 days a year because of Hallmark by themselves do 40 Christmas movies every year, and that's one channel. And then you have Lifetime, and then you have every artist known to man who at some point does a Christmas project.
Right.
And most people aren't thinking to write that stuff. So I'll say me over here.
Yeah. And that pipeline has to constantly be flowing.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It does. And so I've always said, go where your competition is less and your opportunities are more. So I adapted that. Instead of calling me Christmas Corey, I just said, okay, I'll go with it. I'll take whatever niche I can get.
Nothing wrong with that. And, in fact, my wife just told me last night that, Hallmark's coming out with like 40 new Christmas movies. And if you listen to them, they all have Christmas music of some kind in there. So
absolutely.
I get it. So I'm a songwriter. Whether I'm coming to Nashville or Los Angeles or Austin or New York or wherever it is, I want to get into the songwriting business. I'm a good songwriter. My mom tells me I'm a good songwriter. And the stuff I write makes her cry. Mm-hmm. That isn't enough.
No.
So here I am. I need to do something to get my foot in whatever door. Now, you and I, we judged together at least one or two songwriting competitions a couple years ago.
Oh, the Rising Song.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw a lot of amazing talent. Mm-hmm. And we saw some that was like, you need to go back and practice a little more. At least learn how to tune your guitar.
Right.
Most of it, though, was okay. It wasn't bad. It was decent to listen to. As a songwriter, should you spend time before you move to, and fill in the blank, whether it's Nashville or Austin or New York or LA, should you spend time at home honing that skill, and what is that honing of that skill taking to learn how to write a good song? And I'm not talking about a hit, just what do you do to write a good song?
From an artist standpoint, I would say, don't move to Nashville because you can't make money here. But from a writer's standpoint, I would say get here as soon as you can, because you can spend all the time you want in your bedroom trying to figure out, A plus B, all that kind of stuff. But until you can get in a room with some people who've been here for 20 years and you can learn from them, you can soak that up like a sponge, and you increase your abilities so much quicker than you just trying to figure it all out on your own. A lot of times you go to a writer's night and you're, okay, these guys aren't that great. Well, that's not your competition. Your competition is what is on the radio. Who are the people who are signed to the staff deals right now? And if your songs are not better than theirs, there's no way you're getting in that door, because they're already paying them to write. They're using those songs first.
Let's take a little side trip down a parallel road, and that's that staff deal. Mm-hmm. Now, back in my label days, that was the big thing. If you could get onto a songwriting staff and pick up a monthly stipend,
absolutely,
no matter what. Is that still viable out there these days, or is that model changed?
I can't quote these stats 100% correctly, but what I had heard is that there was an estimated, I moved here in 98. At that time, there was an estimated 2,000 staff deals out there available. And I mean, the ones where you didn't have to work the second job. You can find a deal where someone maybe just pays for your demos or something like that. But there was about 2,000 of those jobs available. The last I heard, there was about 200 of those jobs.
Wow.
And they're all filled.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it's so hard to find. And it's not the publisher's fault, because, the internet came out and now you can steal everybody's album cuts without paying for them. So they used to make a lot of money off album cuts as a publisher and a writer, especially when they were selling big. Now that money's gone away, so they don't have the money to pay you. So you're going to have to take smaller or go be an Uber driver. And I know a lot of staff writers that are Uber drivers, by the way.
Yeah, well,
right now.
It's a side gig.
It is a side gig, and whatever you can do to stay in the game, I definitely recommend it. But it's just, it's so hard.
I moved here in 98 also, and to me, I think that was really the beginning, maybe not the very beginning, but I was on the front end of, boy, you talk about a record business that was just exploding in this town. It was just hit after hit after hit, and, artist after artist. And of course, as you said, you had around 2,000 staff writers. Mm-hmm. And we were just keeping those people busy all the time. This is what we need. Can you write this? Can you write that? That is obviously shrunk down 90% or thereabouts. Is that still that same working formula, in that someone comes to you on that staff position? And like I said, I know we're going down a parallel road, and I want to get back to the aspiring songwriter. But in the staff position, if someone says, hey, I need another Don't Take the Girl, or I need another whatever hit song, Jesus Take the Wheel. Mm-hmm. Is there someone that can start writing that, or do they have to research it? Or are there just people that have that ability to say, okay, I think I know what you want. I can write this song for whoever the artist is, and here it is.
Well, you love to have that feedback of knowing that someone needs an exact type of song. We live for that.
Okay.
So we'll look through the music growth facts or whatever tip sheet we might have, and we'll look who's cutting right now, what types of songs are they looking for, and we'll direct it towards that. Or if we're writing for TV and film, we'll think of a scene that comes up often in a movie, like your beginning of the movie road trip song, or We Are the Champions, we overcame an obstacle and now we won this thing that we weren't supposed to win. Marriage songs, anything that happens a lot in a movie, we target those to increase our chances of success.
You mentioned music row facts. I know in film and television, you have music supervisors for the most part that are looking for songs. Let's talk about music row facts for those that don't know what that is.
Well, if you go to rowfacts.com, two things you'll get. One is you'll get the tip sheet showing, I think it's maybe around $200 a year, give or take, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe a little less. And it'll show you the major artists that are looking for songs, not necessarily their contact information. So you have to know somebody on the inside. And then below that, you'll see the indie artist looking for songs, and most times you will have their contact information. So you can send your MP3 or whatever it was to them after, and this is a big thing, after you got permission to do so. They don't want to just be flooded with everybody, so at least be respectful.
Right, and that's a perfect example right there, is don't go knocking on doors with that, hey, I know this is a hit song.
Right.
I remember in my road managing days with some of the artists, people would come up to me and they'd go, I've got a song. I know this is perfect for your artist. Will you please give it to them? And I'd have to say, can't do that. Sorry, no unsolicited material.
Right.
If you'd like to contact their management, here's their information, and you have to follow that parameter. The only time that ever, and I don't want to say it backfired on me, but it was kind of like, oops moment for me was I was in New York with an artist, and a gentleman came up during sound check, and my artist didn't do sound checks. Mm-hmm. And he goes, hey, I've got some songs, and this is 89, so it's on cassette back then. And he goes, I've got some songs that I'd love for you to get to your artist. And I went, yeah, once again, the spiel, can't do it. And he goes, well, no, he knows me. Tell him Tommy was here. And I go, Tommy? And he goes,
Tommy Barnes?
Tommy Dowd.
Okay.
The engineer and the producer, and had worked with Atlantic Records and Ray Charles and everybody else. And I went, and at that point it didn't click because I was busy. My mind was going about, okay, sure, no problem. And then as soon as he walked out the door, I went, Tommy Dowd. Oh my God. Fortunately, he came back that night, and I was able to say, hey, no, let's get you backstage and meet the artist. But yeah, you don't want to just show up at someone's door, CD in hand or whatever it is you're presenting, thumb drive. You want to be able to clear those obstacles in a proper manner.
Well, and in their defense, that may be something that they're not allowed to listen to, because what if they already have something like that, and then you say they stole your idea, and then there's a lawsuit involved,
right?
And they don't know whose you heard first and all that kind of stuff.
Plagiarism.
So they have to worry about those kind of things. But above that, it's usually because 90% of the songs given to them are not that good,
right?
By comparison.
The other form of protection, as we talk about the plagiarism angle, is copywriting. Mm-hmm. Should you, as an aspiring songwriter, as soon as you write something and you're getting ready to pitch it, should it be copyrighted?
I don't personally. That's a lot of money, because I write between 300 and 400 songs a year, and I'd be broke.
Yeah, $50 a song or whatever.
Now you can
it is.
wait. You can fill up a CD. If you have the same co-writer on a song, like if you wrote it all by yourself, you can fill up an entire CD and say Bob's Greatest Hits Part 1. And you can copyright all of those as a collection. That saves you a lot of money. But if any one of those songs you had a different co-writer on, you can't do it.
Right.
It has to be the exact same percentages, the exact same co-writers to register bulk at one time.
So how do you protect that song?
Well, the first thing I do is register it, just so that BMI and ASCAP knows it's out there.
Through your PRO.
Through your PRO.
Yeah.
So I've been guilty of being way behind on that. But another reason I do that, there was an instance where I lost a Lone Star cut because someone somehow got a hold of the song, but they didn't know who wrote it, and they tried for 3 months to find out. Now, granted, had I registered that song, it wasn't a super original title, so that's another reason you want to write original titles so they're easy to find.
Yeah.
They don't get mixed up with everybody else's. But that broke my heart because I was a huge Richie McDonald fan.
So you should also spend some time researching the title. Or,
correct.
Yeah, make sure that, not everybody's writing, Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys, because that's
Before I ever start the write, I check BMI.com every time, and I see how many of those there are out there. If there's 0, I'm very happy. If there's 1 or 2, I'm still pretty happy.
Yeah.
But you love to find the ones that haven't been used, so then you're doing something original.
We're going to take another break, get another word in for another one of our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to have some more conversation. We're going to get back on track and talk about that anatomy of writing a song with Corey Lee Barker here, who is the creative director of MC1 Nashville Music Publishing.
Hi, this is Karina Rose Logston with High Fidelity, and I'm sitting here with my pal Bob Bender, sharing my expertise and wisdom here on the business side of music. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hi everyone, I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right, everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena, and believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics. All written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message. Thanks.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio, sitting across the console from me, Corey Lee Barker is here today. Beautiful sunny day.
Yes, sir.
The weather's nice for once. It's in the 80s. It's August.
I'll take it.
I'll take it too. The anatomy of a song. You know, we talk about, and I like what you said. I had never thought that, but as an artist, don't come to town. But as a songwriter, you should get here as quickly as you can and get in with that group of people. Okay, so now I'm in town. I've got my guitar. It's all tuned up. Do I go to songwriters nights? What is that next step?
Well, I like to. Songwriters organizations have been helpful. TSAI, NSAI, Global Songwriters, whatever you want to join. I would recommend at least doing one of those things where you're surrounding yourself with other people who are working towards the same goals, and you're getting feedback maybe on your material and learning about new things that maybe things that can make your songs better. It's hard to learn it all by yourself. So if you're constantly networking with people, it's going to help. The thing I worry about with writers' nights is, again, we talked about the original hook. Well, the more original your hook is, the more likely it is going to get stolen when you play it out. So I try not to play. That's the thing. If you don't want to play your best hooks, then are you judged for somebody who doesn't write great hooks?
Yeah.
Because you were saving those great hooks for hoping they wouldn't get stolen and that kind of thing. So it's a catch-22 sometimes. So if I were ever to play out, and I don't anymore hardly, but if I do something comical or a song I really love that has a simple title that it's already been used. So if someone stole it, it wouldn't make that big of a difference.
Then what you're saying is you really need to learn that fine balancing act of what you're going to present in a public forum versus what you're going to pitch to the artist.
Well, because one of your main reasons why you might want to play out is try to get a staff deal, which are very hard to find, or try to get noticed. Maybe someone's in there, maybe an artist might want to record that song. But then again, you're worried about playing that best hook because someone might steal it with better connections, get it cut, and then yours is useless for 20 years, or maybe always.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult line to ride.
Until William Shatner comes and picks it up.
There you go. There you go. Even then, there's no guarantee that they'll sell units.
Right. And that's the other thing, too. Let's talk about that for a second. As a songwriter, a buddy of ours who just lives literally across the road from us recently wrote a hit for Blake Shelton. And it did really, really well. You know, he was able to actually, get a new car for it and get a fence put up at his house. Is that money still being made? And I'll preface that by saying we had Danny Myrick and Reggie Ham on the show about a year or so ago, two huge hit songwriters who said it just doesn't pay like it used to anymore. Is there still money to be made as a songwriter? I mean, why do it?
There is they still can't take your radio single money away. So if you have a number one hit, you're still going to make a lot of money. You're still going to be happy. For me, I'll tell you a great example. Your average artist is going to cut a song and print maybe 1,000 copies, which is usually the standard to get started with. You're splitting, so at 9.1 cents, you're splitting a $91 check with all the publishers and all the co-writers.
Right.
And probably never going to get any radio play on that. So, and you probably spent $400 on the demo. So you already lost money. Versus TV and sync, if I were to get a song in a Netflix, say a TV show, sometimes that can pay anywhere from $500 to $6,000, give or take, for just a slot on a show on the upfront. And then we're splitting the back end money every time it spins. That makes a whole lot more sense than spending time trying to write for indie artists. So for me, I make sure I'm spending an equal amount of time, if not greater, writing TV and sync music, which is a totally different animal of writing than writing for an artist.
So let's talk about that for a second. We talked about Music Row Facts, being able to see who's in the studio, who's looking for material. How do you find out who's looking for the song?
It's a little tougher. Yeah. It's a little tougher that way, and it's a multi-step process for me. IMDb.com is a great place to learn what's coming out, what movies. You can type in a movie and you can find out, if you scroll down to the bottom often, who the music supervisor is. Well, then I got to go to LinkedIn and type in that person's name and hope that they pop up, and then send them a connection request. And only if they say yes can I find that email. And if it does, then I go on and I can. And there's another website called tunefind.com, which is extremely valuable, and it's free. If there's a show that I really love as a writer, I can go to tunefind.com and type in Walking Dead or whatever show it is, and I can hear every song they've ever placed on that show. So that way I know if what I'm writing and what I want to send to that supervisor that I found on LinkedIn makes sense.
Right.
Or if it's so far off, they're going to think I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
So
what you're saying
it's
is
a lot of research.
Do your homework. Yeah, do your research, do your homework.
Yes, a lot of it.
So let's bounce back to that songwriter. So now you're in Songwriters Nights. You're getting some traction, getting some interest. An artist, whether they're a labeled artist or they're an indie artist, says, hey, I like this song. I'd like to put it on my next project. So that next step for the songwriter is, okay, it looks like I'm going to get a cut that's going to go somewhere. Should there be a contract now at this point? Or is everything done with a handshake, or how does that work?
No, you still want to send out your mechanical license to make sure that you're going to get paid should it happen. And I normally send out a non-exclusive license unless it's a Blake Shelton or somebody like that. Then, yes, we will definitely hold this and no one else can see the song until,
right.
Yes, sir, Mr. Blake. Whatever you have to do as nice as you want. But, yeah, you want to send out a mechanical license as soon as you can, just so they know that some of these new artists have no idea even how anything works. They don't even know you have to pay for something, or if they can get by without it, then, of course, there are many times where people cut your songs and you never get a check, and there's not much you can do about that other than chase them down, wait outside their house and go, excuse me, but there's a check you forgot to send.
Yeah.
The mechanical license is very important. If you don't know how to do that, you can look that up and find a generic copy, and you can kind of recreate one for yourself.
Let's fast forward just a little bit. Mm-hmm. A publishing company, is that something a songwriter should focus on? And I can have 12 different experts in the music industry here, and we can talk about publishing, and I'm going to get 12 different types of responses. Right. In fact, I've had someone say to me recently, I work in the music publishing business, and I don't even know what we do, because it changes so dramatically. But let's talk about that publishing deal. At what point does that make sense? Or does it make sense?
It just depends on your level of connections, because that's technically what you're paying for, is you're hoping that, because you got to think, a lot of people, when they get a song published, they're like, oh my gosh, I just got a song published, as if they got a book published. It's not the same thing. What you're essentially saying is, I just gave away 50% of my money. Yay! And no guarantee that anything will ever happen.
Yeah.
For you, it's like, okay, how many connections do I have? Who can I reach out to that could bring in some income? If I don't have a lot, this publisher knows everybody. It makes sense. If this publisher doesn't have any more connections than you do, unless they're paying you a draw, which is harder to find, as we talked about these days, then does it really make sense? Unless you just want to say I have a publishing deal.
But you're giving away a certain percentage to that publisher.
You're giving half
to administer whatever it is that they're going to do. Yeah. You pay them no matter what. I mean, they're going to get it. So you have to, once again, do your homework and do your research.
Yes.
Does this make sense to have a publishing deal?
And, maybe research what have they done in the past that brought them money? What cuts did they get that their writers are very satisfied with? And if you see a lot of stuff that's great that they've done, then it makes sense for whatever amount of time that you want to try it.
What's next for Corey Barker and MC1?
Well, first off, I'm very grateful that MC1 believed in me enough to give me one of those 200 jobs that we talked about, and to be it's just such an incredible blessing, and it's so much easier to get up and do what you love to do and be creative than the 13 years I worked waiting tables and then wrote, or the 9 years after that I worked at a bank and then wrote. It's so much easier to do that. For me, it's all about getting as much product as we can have to pitch out there, making as many connections as we have on the TV side and on the artist side, and always striving, never slowing down. Like, I'll write all day and then I go home at night and I pitch. And I don't know where the off button is, so it's not a job for me. So it's just I love it. So I cannot complain about anything. So for me, what's next is more of the same. It's the hustle and the persistence and the try and the connect and all those things that come with it.
You said something that I think evokes volumes in this business, and that is, you better love what you do.
Oh, yeah.
And if you treat this as a job, or if you're treating this, well, I want to get a check, you're really doing it for the wrong reasons. This is a business, but at the same time, we need to love what it is that we do.
It's funny because you have to love what you do, but you also have to be willing to work for it. And you have to know that if you're sitting at home watching the next Netflix movie, someone else is pinning the next hit.
Right.
Or they're reaching out to that next artist that needs songs. So it's taking whatever time you're taking off is time someone else is not. So I always look at it that way.
How can people find you?
Fortunately, I've been at it so long, you could probably Google Corey Lee Barker and a lot of stuff come up. Facebook, you can find Christmas Corey, or you can find Corey Lee Barker as well. I've got one thing that might help some people to know it from a pitching standpoint. I keep a Reverb Nation for country, for Christian, for Christmas, for military. I keep it all separate. And then that way, if someone ever needs a song and I'm not around my computer, I can direct them to that site. I can say, here's your buffet of things. Have at it, whatever you like. Go ahead and take. And that gets you more pitches than you ever, because nobody wants you to pitch them 90 songs in an email.
Right.
But if they have a link and they have some free time and they can push play and listen to whatever they want to, then oftentimes you're pitching and you have no idea you're even doing it.
Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, anytime.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.
Father, come build me a boat that over the wide ocean I may go, and every ship that I pass by, there I'll inquire my sailor boy. I hadn't been sailing about half an hour before I met a bold man of war. Captain, Captain, come tell me true, is my sweet William on board with you? No, kind lady, he is not here, that he is drowned, most great I fear. The other night when the wind blew high, that's when we lost your sailor boy. I sat me down, I'll write a song, I'll write it neat and I'll write it long. In every verse I'll shed a tear, in every line hold Willie dear.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.